what is investment about? It's a broad term we use in a lot of different contexts, and sometimes it'll have these vague meanings. In this text, investment means the purchase of an asset for the purpose of storing and possibly increasing value over the time. Well, that's the bottom line, is increasing in value over time. That's an investment. It doesn't always work that way. You need to pay attention to this law. In the stock market, if you win, somebody else loses. Yep, that's how it works. Hopefully, you might be able to buy a stock and the stock just skyrockets. But a lot of times when we do a stock, you're going to win this over here, and somebody else, they paid the price for your winning. So it's a pretty tough world. So examples of investments, there's a whole series of options. We're going to look at some of these, or almost all of them. There's stocks, there's bonds, there's options, there's commodity contracts, there's cryptocurrency, there's even antiques. Yep, stamps, real estate. There's a lot of different areas that investments we purchases of, and sometimes you don't think about it. A comic book actually becomes an investment if it's one of those rare items of a certain print or whatever. You can have a coin, a penny, a double date penny actually works. A steel penny actually is valuable. You'll have art is valuable, and they're all investments. And it's your job is to see how you can turn that investment into some type of money. So with that being said, a 401k is an employee-funded retirement program. So a lot of times the employer will have an investment and match yours in the process. So that's a real positive thing. And in this day and age, because of the fact that so many employers are cutting back on retirement plans, you need to have a 401k in place. It's a good way to be a millionaire by the time you want to retire, by investing nonstop, but you have to start early. It's called compound interest. And yeah, you earn interest on money in the plan, and you earn the right to match the company's contribution. You have to become vested in the plan, though, and usually this depends on the company. Usually it's 5 years. You have to stay with the company. Otherwise, if you leave before then, they keep their shares. So make certain, if you're paying attention to this, that you know what they're talking about. A lot of times investments include which investments to purchase, how much to purchase of each, when to buy and sell, how investments interact with each other. That's a big deal. We'll talk about some very special ones in the process. What is an investment worth? We call that valuation. It's the process of how you determine the worth of the asset. Sometimes you want to look at the future benefits you're going to have from it. Sometimes in investment, you lock it up for a certain period of time, and because it was locked up like that, you'll have an increase of the overall value with compound interest. So valuation, you want to look at the present value of future benefits. A lot of times it's cash flows. You'll see that especially when it comes to stocks and dividends. There's a reality when you get your money back, and then how much you get back, and then there's the uncertainties. If you buy a bond that's rated C, it's called a junk bond. That may not be the best investment, but the rate looks really good. So, but you might never get your money back. Other than that, it's okay. So you got to watch the valuation, what that means. We're going to talk about market efficiency later on, correlation of cash flow among investments. How much money do you need? Do you need it at all, or can you let it sit there, which sometimes is a really smart strategy? You have to pay attention to the economic environment. If a country is going through a period of unemployment or inflation, that can have a huge impact on you. If our legislator goes out of control and decides, we're going to increase the overall money supply, and they did like they did during the pandemic, a 40% increase, that resulted in, a lot of inflation later on. That was real, and all of them, especially the ones that took a simple community college management class or an investment class, they knew what they were doing in the process. They created a monster of inflation. Sometimes that happens for their own political expediency. Correlation, the degree of return on the movement between assets. Ford and GM, they're highly correlated. They'll tend to do that. But Ford and Kellogg's, they're not correlated at all. As a matter of fact, Kellogg's has problems because they have too many serial killers. That's a bad dad joke, and you should be chuckling on that one. Hey, if you're not, that's okay. But Ford and Kellogg's, there is no relationship. You may see Ford and GM, they'll go up and down with the swings of the market depending upon the asset of cash to be able to buy vehicles. But Ford and Kellogg's, you won't have any of that because Kellogg's really has a much smaller dollar price overall. So you'll see differences in the correlation. Think about your own industry or field of interest. What are two company stocks that be highly correlated in your own area? What company stocks are not highly correlated? So pay attention to think about the different aspects as to what you can and what you can't do. Stocks also follow expectations. Well, they're coming out with something really good. I hear they have a new drug going to hit the market. Everybody gets excited. They pile in and the stock goes up. Even if nothing really is happening, sometimes the rumor all by itself is enough. If the Federal Reserve Chairman sneezes, oh, the Federal Reserve Chairman's got a cold. Oh, and the stock market reacts and the stocks plunge. Without exaggerating, those things happen. That uncertainty really fuels an awful lot of interest in the markets. So what is investment about? You have to analyze the valuation of the company to see the investment, correlate related investments, look at expectations, and monitor them to see where they lead. That's how you're going to sit down and have a really solid investment portfolio. Take care.